When your wife says she misses being single, believe her. I did. And when I called my lawyer, she suddenly remembered what she'd thrown away. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where you're watching from around the world. Now, let me tell you about the morning my marriage ended over a cup of coffee. Axt 1. The moment. Everything changed. It was a Sunday morning in late September, the kind of morning that tricks you into thinking everything's fine. Sunlight filtered through our kitchen windows, warming the countertops. Outside, I could hear neighbors mowing their lawns, kids laughing on the street. Normal Sunday sounds. I was making breakfast the way I always did on Sundays. Scrambled eggs with chives, toast with butter melting into the corners, fresh orange juice, and Sophie's coffee exactly how she liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of oat milk. Stirred counterclockwise because she swore it tasted better that way. I'm Daniel, by the way, 36 years old, software engineer, the kind of guy who thought doing small things with love was how you kept a marriage alive. I was wrong. Sophie walked into the kitchen wearing one of my old college hoodies, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked beautiful, even half awake. 5 years of marriage, and I still felt lucky every time she walked into a room. I set her coffee down in front of her with a smile. "Good morning, babe." She didn't look up from her phone, just wrapped her hands around the mug and let out this long, heavy sigh. Then she said it. "I miss being single." I laughed nervously, not because it was funny, but because I thought she had to be joking. "What?" I asked, still smiling, waiting for the punchline. She looked up at me then. Her eyes were cold, distant, like she was looking at a stranger. "I said I miss being single, Daniel." The smile died on my face. And then, without breaking eye contact, she slid her wedding ring off her finger and tossed it into the sink. It bounced once against the stainless steel with a sharp metallic sound, spun twice, and settled near the drain with a soft clink that echoed louder than it should have. I stood there frozen, spatula still in my hand, eggs burning behind me, trying to process what had just happened. That little piece of metal, that symbol of every promise we'd made to each other, meant nothing to her anymore, and that told me everything I needed to know. Act 2. Cracks in the marriage. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. Sophie had been pulling away for months. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no obvious betrayal. It was subtle, the kind of slow fade you don't notice until you're already standing in the dark. It started with the late nights. She'd always been a morning person, but suddenly she was going to a new gym across town at 8 or 9 p.m., coming home after 10 with flushed cheeks and her hair still perfectly dry. Then came the new wardrobe. Tight yoga pants, crop tops, expensive sneakers I'd never seen her wear to an actual workout. She'd spend hours in front of the mirror taking selfies, posting them with captions like "new energy" and "finding myself again" with sparkle emojis. Her phone became an extension of her hand, always face down on the table, always buzzing with notifications she'd glance at and slip into her pocket without explaining. When I tried to talk to her, really talk, she'd sigh like I was exhausting her. "Can we not do this right now, Daniel?" "Do what?" "This. The needy thing. It's draining." I'd back off. Give her space. Tell myself she was just stressed from work, that every marriage had rough patches. But the truth was sinking in, slow and suffocating. One night, I suggested we watch a movie together like we used to. Just the two of us. Popcorn, wine, couch cuddles. She rolled her eyes. "You've gotten so boring." That word hit me harder than I expected. Boring. Like I was a chore she'd grown tired of, a routine she wanted to break. I didn't argue. I just started paying attention. I documented everything. Screenshots of her Instagram activity at 2 in the morning, receipts from restaurants I'd never been to, timestamps of when she left the house and when she came back. I kept a folder on my laptop labeled Home Expenses. Innocent enough if she ever saw it. But inside were weeks of evidence. Love doesn't disappear overnight, but respect does. And once that's gone, you're not married anymore. You're just roommates sharing regrets. Act 3. The breaking point. The real breaking point came on a Friday night in early October. Sophie came downstairs wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Form-fitting, low-cut. The kind of dress that required heels and made a statement. "You look nice," I said from the living room. "Where are you going again?" "I told you. Girls' night with Melissa and Jen." "In that dress?" She stopped, one hand on her purse. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just seems fancy for a girls' night." Maybe I want to feel good about myself. Do I need your permission to wear a dress? I didn't say that, but you implied it. She sighed. Look, I'm going out. I'll be back later. Don't wait up. Don't wait up. Like I was her parent, not her husband. She came home at 1:30 in the morning, stumbling through the front door, laughing at something on her phone. I was sitting on the couch in the dark. Where were you? She kicked off her heels. Out, with friends, like I told you. Until 1:30? Oh my God, Daniel, are you seriously doing this right now? You're smothering me. This is exactly why I feel trapped. The word hit me like cold water. Trapped. I've never tried to control you, Sophie. I just asked where you were. It's not about what you do. It's about how you make me feel. Like I'm some character in your boring little life. When's the last time you did something spontaneous? Something exciting? Something that wasn't boring? Every word was a knife. I thought we were building a life together. She laughed, bitter and sharp. A life? This isn't a life, Daniel. This is a routine. This is autopilot. And I'm done with it. You don't owe me anything, Sophie. But you do owe me honesty, respect. Maybe I don't want to give you that anymore. Maybe I deserve better. I stared at her for a long moment, and I said very quietly, maybe you do. She blinked, surprised, like she'd expected me to beg or yell. Instead, I walked past her and went upstairs to the guest room. She called after me, but I didn't turn around. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. Act 4. The Lawyer's Call. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. in the guest room. Sophie was still asleep. Or pretending to be. I didn't care which. I showered, dressed in my best suit, the charcoal gray one I wore to important meetings, and combed my hair with more care than I had in months. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Tired eyes, tight jaw, but something else too. Determination. I went downstairs and made coffee, just for me this time. No scrambled eggs, no toast, no ritual. I took a business card from my wallet. Richard Callahan, the divorce attorney my colleague Tom had recommended after his own divorce last year. Tom had warned me. Hope you never need it, but if you do, this guy's the best. Fair, fast, and he doesn't play games. I placed the card in a clean white envelope along with a single sentence I'd written in my neatest handwriting. I'm giving you what you want. Let's make it official. I set the envelope on the kitchen counter, propped against her coffee mug. The mug I wouldn't be filling anymore. Then I grabbed my keys and left. Sophie was standing in the doorway of our bedroom as I headed for the front door, wearing my MIT hoodie, her hair a mess. Daniel, where are you going so early? I didn't stop walking. Out. Wait, what's that on the counter? I closed the door behind me without answering. I called Richard Callahan from my car before I even pulled out of the driveway. His secretary answered on the second ring, professional and polite. Callahan and Associates, how may I help you? I need to schedule a consultation as soon as possible. It's regarding a divorce. Of course. May I have your name? Daniel Morrison. And when would you like to come in? Today, this morning if possible. There was a pause, the sound of typing. Mr. Callahan has an opening at 10 a.m. Would that work? I checked the clock on my dashboard. It was 7:15. I'll be there. The law offices of Callahan and Associates were downtown, in one of those old brick buildings that had been renovated with glass and steel, trying to look modern while maintaining historical charm. I arrived 40 minutes early and sat in my car, watching people walk by with their coffee and their purpose. My phone buzzed. Sophie. What the hell is this envelope, Daniel? Another buzz. Are you serious right now? Another. Call me. We need to talk. I silenced my phone and went inside. Richard Callahan was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined some slick, shark-like attorney in an expensive suit who'd try to bleed me dry. Instead, I got a man in his 50s with graying hair, reading glasses, and the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too many marriages fall apart. He shook my hand firmly and gestured to the chair across from his desk. Tom spoke highly of you, he said, settling into his chair. Said you're a good guy going through a tough time. So let's skip the small talk. Tell me what's going on. I laid it all out. Everything. The distance, the late nights, the ring in the sink, the fight about feeling trapped. My voice stayed steady, clinical, like I was describing someone else's life. When I finished, Richard leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. And you documented everything? I pulled out my laptop, opened the Home Expenses folder, and turned the screen toward him. He scrolled through it all in silence. Screenshots, receipts, timestamps, credit card statements, text message exchanges, the whole picture. After several minutes, he looked up at me with something close to respect. "You've done the hard part already, Daniel. Most guys come in here emotional and empty-handed, expecting me to build their case from scratch. You came prepared. That's going to make this much cleaner. I just want this done right, done fast. I don't want to drag this out." "Understood. Given what you've shown me and the fact that Oregon is a no-fault state, this should be relatively straightforward. We're looking at asset division, separation of bank accounts." He glanced at his notes. "The house is in your name alone?" "Yes. She had credit issues when we bought it. Her name's not on the mortgage." He nodded, making notes. "That simplifies things. Any children?" "No." "Pets?" "No." "Good. I can have initial paperwork drawn up by Monday. We'll file by Tuesday, and she should receive formal notice by Wednesday." It was happening. It was really happening. "What should I expect when she gets served?" Richard gave me a knowing look. "Anger, denial, possibly bargaining. A lot of people don't think their spouse will actually go through with it until they get that certified letter. Reality hits different when it's in legal print." "She wanted this," I said quietly. "She said she felt trapped, that she missed being single. I'm just giving her what she asked for." "Maybe, but there's a difference between wanting freedom and facing consequences. You'd be surprised how many people want out right up until the moment out becomes official." By Wednesday afternoon, Sophie had received the notice. The certified letter arrived at the house while I was staying at a Marriott downtown. Notice of asset division, separation of joint bank accounts, documentation showing my name on the mortgage and hers conspicuously absent. A court date. Everything in black and white legal terminology that made it real in a way our fight hadn't. My phone exploded. 37 calls. I counted them later. Dozens of texts that escalated from confusion to anger to desperation. "What the fuck, Daniel? You can't be serious. Call me now. This is insane. We can fix this. Please just talk to me. I didn't mean it." "Baby, please." I ignored every single one. On Thursday, she showed up at my office. I was in a strategy meeting when my assistant knocked on the conference room door, her face apologetic and uncomfortable. "Daniel, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. She says she's your wife." Everyone in the meeting went quiet. "Tell her I'm unavailable." "I tried. She's pretty upset. She's crying in the lobby." I closed my laptop and stood up. "Excuse me for a moment." Sophie was in the reception area, and she looked nothing like the confident woman in the black dress. She was wearing sweatpants and one of my hoodies, no makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red and swollen. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. When she saw me, she practically ran across the lobby. "Daniel, please, we need to talk." My coworkers were staring. The receptionist looked mortified. "We don't," I said quietly, gesturing toward the door. "You need to leave." I didn't mean it. Any of it. I was confused. I was going through something. It was just a phase, I swear. People say stupid things when they're... "Sophie." I cut her off, my voice calm but firm. "You didn't say stupid things. You threw your wedding ring in the sink. You told me you felt trapped. You said you deserved better." I was wrong. I was so wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. Please don't do this. People were definitely watching now. Phones were probably out. Tomorrow I'd be office gossip. I didn't care. Phases end, Sophie, but consequences don't. "Daniel, please." I turned and walked back toward the conference room. She grabbed my arm, her fingers desperate, her voice breaking. "I love you. I still love you. Doesn't that mean anything?" I gently pulled my arm away and looked at her. Really looked at her. At this woman I'd promised forever to, who'd promised me the same, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not love, not even pity, just exhaustion. "No," I said softly. "You loved what I did for you. There's a difference." And I walked away, leaving her standing in my office lobby, crying. The conference room door closed behind me with a soft click. ACT 5. The Desperation. Over the next few weeks, Sophie launched a full campaign to win me back. It was methodical, strategic, like she'd Googled how to get your husband back and was working through a checklist. It started with the apology texts. Paragraphs long, novels really. Some sent at 3 a.m. when I knew she was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, finally understanding what she'd thrown away. "I was scared of losing myself. I took you for granted. I see that now. You were always there, always steady, and I mistook that for boring when really it was love. Real love. The kind people search their whole lives for. And I threw it away. I'm so sorry. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Please don't throw us away over one mistake. Everyone deserves a second chance. Don't I deserve a second chance? I'll do anything. Therapy, couples counseling, individual counseling, whatever you need, whatever it takes. Just please talk to me. I read everyone, and I deleted everyone. No responses, no acknowledgement, just silence. Because here's what I'd learned. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And Sophie had shown me. The ring in the sink wasn't a mistake, it was a declaration. Then came the visits. She started showing up at places she knew I'd be. The coffee shop near my office where I'd grab my morning latte. The gym I'd joined after moving out. Even the grocery store on Sunday mornings when she knew I'd be doing my shopping. And she'd transformed herself again. Back to the old Sophie, the one I'd fallen in love with. Soft sweaters instead of crop tops. Minimal makeup instead of the Instagram perfect face. Hair down and natural instead of styled and posed. She wore the perfume I'd given her for our second anniversary. She smiled the way she used to smile before everything changed. She was trying to rewind time, trying to become the version of herself that I'd miss. But I'd already seen behind the curtain. At the coffee shop, she'd coincidentally show up right when I was ordering. "Oh my God, Daniel! What a surprise!" It wasn't a surprise. Nothing she did was a surprise anymore. "Hi, Sophie. How are you? How have you been?" "I'm fine. I've missed seeing you. The house feels so empty without you." I'd take my coffee and leave without another word, but I could feel her watching me go, feel the weight of her desperation following me out the door. At the gym, she joined. The same gym. She'd position herself where I couldn't help but see her, running on the treadmill in one of my old t-shirts, glancing over every few minutes to see if I was looking. I wasn't. The grocery store was the worst. She'd push her cart slowly through the aisles, timing it so we'd cross paths near the produce section. "Daniel, wait, can we just talk? 5 minutes, please." "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. There's everything to talk about. Our marriage, our future. We don't have a future." She'd start crying right there between the apples and the bananas, and people would stare, and I'd feel like the villain in a story where I was actually the victim. But I held firm. One evening, about 3 weeks after I'd filed, our mutual friend staged an intervention disguised as a casual dinner. Mike and Jessica, our couple friends we'd known since college, invited me out for drinks at this trendy bar downtown. "Come on, man," Mike had said over the phone. "You've been holed up in that hotel for weeks. Come have a beer, let's catch up." I should have known better. I walked into the bar, and there she was. Sophie, sitting at a high-top table with Mike and Jessica, wearing a blue dress I'd always loved, her hair curled the way I used to tell her looked beautiful. The trap had been set. Mike and Jessica looked guilty but determined, like parents forcing their kids to work out their differences. "Hey, Daniel," Jessica said with forced cheerfulness. "Look who else is here. What a coincidence." It wasn't a coincidence. It was an ambush. I could have left, should have left. But I was tired of running into her everywhere, tired of the games. I sat down. "Hi," Sophie said softly, nervously, playing with the stem of her wine glass. "Hi." Mike and Jessica exchanged glances, then suddenly Jessica grabbed Mike's arm. "Oh, I just remembered we need to check on something. At the bar. Be right back." They fled, leaving Sophie and me alone at the table. She leaned forward, her eyes searching mine. "Thank you for staying. I know you didn't have to." "I probably shouldn't have. But you did. That means something, doesn't it? It means I'm too tired to keep avoiding you." She flinched but pressed on. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But can we please just talk? Really talk? Not through lawyers or text messages, just us." "About what?" "About us. About fixing this. About not giving up on 5 years of marriage over a few bad months." I set down my beer. "There's nothing to fix, Sophie. You made yourself very clear." I was stupid. I was selfish. But people make mistakes. People say things they don't mean when they're confused or scared or... "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up my hand. "I saw the messages, Sophie." Her face went pale, actually drained of color right there in the dim bar light. What messages?" Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about." Her hands started shaking. She set down her wine glass carefully, like she was afraid it might shatter. The ones to your yoga coach, I continued, my voice calm but final. The guy whose name you saved with a little fire emoji. Alex, right? The one you were texting at 2 a.m. while I was asleep next to you? The one you were meeting at those upscale restaurants? The one you were thinking about when you threw your ring in the sink? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a fatigue. It wasn't what you think. I don't care what it was. Nothing happened. It doesn't matter if it was physical or emotional or just in your head. You checked out of our marriage long before that ring hit the sink. You chose to invest your time, your energy, your attention in someone else, and that's all I need to know. The tears spilled over now, running down her cheeks and dripping onto the table. Daniel, please. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but it's over. I blocked him, I quit that gym, I ended everything. Can't we just... I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and left cash on the table for my untouched beer. You didn't end anything, Sophie. You just got caught. There's a difference. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her chair scrape back. Daniel, wait, please. But I didn't wait. I pushed through the door and out into the cold October night, breathing in the fresh air like I'd been underwater. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. Sometimes just walking away says everything that needs to be said. Akit 6. The realization. 3 weeks later, my phone rang at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was lying in my hotel room, reading a book I wasn't really processing, when I saw her name light up the screen. Sophie. I stared at it for 3 rings. 4, 5. I'd been ignoring her calls for a month, letting them go to voicemail, deleting the messages without listening, building a wall of silence that said more than any words could. But something about this call felt different. Maybe it was the time. Maybe it was the fact that it was her 15th call that day, and usually she gave up after 5. Maybe I was just tired of the game. On the 6th ring, I answered. Hello? There was a long pause, not the angry kind, the broken kind, the kind where someone's trying to gather courage to speak words they know won't change anything. Then her voice, small and broken, and so quiet I almost couldn't hear it. I miss you. I didn't respond. Just lay there in the dark hotel room, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe on the other end of the line. I know I don't deserve to say that, she continued, her voice cracking. I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything, but I need you to know. You were the only one who ever truly cared about me. I closed my eyes. Then you shouldn't have thrown me away to feel free. She started crying softly. Real tears this time. Not manipulative, not performative, just sad. The sound of someone who'd finally understood what they'd lost. I wasn't thinking. I was selfish and stupid, and I thought I wanted something else, something exciting, something that made me feel young again. But it was all empty, Daniel. It was all nothing compared to what we had. What we had, I repeated. Past tense. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it does. Why? Because of my mistake? Because I said some stupid things? Because I got confused about what I wanted? I sat up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed, phone pressed to my ear. You said you missed being single, Sophie. Silence. You told me I was boring, that you felt trapped, that you deserved better. You took off your wedding ring, the ring I worked 3 jobs to afford, and you threw it in the sink like it was garbage, like 5 years of marriage was garbage, like I was garbage. I didn't mean... And then, when I gave you exactly what you wanted, when I started the divorce proceedings to set you free, you suddenly changed your mind. Not because you love me, but because you're lonely and scared, and suddenly I don't look so boring anymore. That's not fair, Daniel. Maybe not, but it's true. She was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. I do love you, she whispered finally. I know you don't believe me. I know I don't deserve to say it. But I do. I love you. No, Sophie. My voice was calm, final. You love the idea of not being alone. You love having someone who makes you coffee in the morning and listens to your problems and pays half the bills and makes you feel secure. But you don't love me, because if you did, you never would have done what you did. People make mistakes. Stop calling it a mistake. The words came out harder than I intended. I took a breath, steadied myself. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something hurtful in the heat of an argument. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a series of choices, deliberate choices, months of them. I was confused. You were bored. There's a difference. Another long silence. Then, her voice barely above a whisper, "What about therapy? What about counseling? What about trying to work through this?" "Why would I want to work through this, Sophie? So I can spend the rest of my life wondering when you'll get bored again? Wondering if you're texting someone else? Wondering if every time you come home late or go to the gym or dress up for a girls' night, you're actually choosing someone else over me?" "I wouldn't." "You already did." She let out a sob, a real one, the sound of someone breaking. "Please, can we meet one more time? Just to talk, face to face? I need to see you. I need to explain." "There's nothing left to explain." "Daniel, please." "I gave you 5 years of loyalty, Sophie. 5 years of showing up every single day. 5 years of choosing you over and over again. And the moment things felt routine, the moment the newness wore off, you looked for something else. Someone else. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Tell me. Make me understand how texting another man at 2 a.m. while your husband sleeps next to you is anything other than betrayal." She was crying harder now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I could take it back, but you can't. I know I can't. But can't we try? Can't we at least try?" I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights below. All those people living their lives. All those stories I'd never know. All those relationships that were working or falling apart or somewhere in between. And I thought about what trying would mean. Going to counseling where we'd dissect every moment of our marriage. Rebuilding trust that had been shattered. Lying awake at night wondering, always wondering, living in the shadow of what she'd done. "You said you missed being single," I said quietly. "I know, I was wrong." "No, you were honest, maybe for the first time in months, and I'm going to honor that honesty." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm giving you what you asked for." "Daniel?" "Enjoy being single, Sophie." And I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I silenced it. It rang 3 more times that night, then stopped. I didn't sleep, just sat by the window until the sun came up, watching the city wake up, watching people start their days, watching life continue like nothing had changed, even though everything had. HT7. The Resolution. 2 months later, on a cold December morning, I stood outside the Multnomah County Courthouse. The sky was gray, not quite raining, but threatening to. The kind of Portland weather that feels appropriate for endings. The divorce was finalized. I just walked out of a courtroom where a judge I'd never met signed papers that legally ended 5 years of marriage in less than 15 minutes. No drama, no big speeches, just signatures and stamps and the quiet efficiency of a system designed to dissolve what 2 people had once promised would last forever. I stood on the courthouse steps, the paperwork tucked under my arm in a manila envelope. Everything legally documented. Assets divided, bank accounts separated. The house officially mine alone. Our marriage dissolved into a stack of legal documents and a judge's signature. It was over. Really, truly over. I walked slowly to my car, the cold air biting at my face, my breath visible in small clouds. I dressed for this moment like it was a business meeting. Suit, tie, dress shoes, armor for the occasion. But now that it was done, I felt strange. Not happy, not sad, not even relieved exactly, just clear, like fog lifting, like waking up from a dream you can't quite remember but know wasn't good. I sat in my car for a long moment before starting it, just breathing, just existing in the weight of what had just happened. My phone was in my pocket, silenced for the hearing. I pulled it out now and saw 17 missed calls, all from Sophie, and one text sent 10 minutes ago. "Please, just talk to me. One more time. I'm begging you." I looked at the message for a long moment, read it twice, then a third time, and I thought about all the versions of this story where I might give in, where I might call her back, meet her for coffee, listen to her cry, and apologize one more time, where guilt or loneliness or the weight of 5 years together might pull me back into something broken. But I'd learned something in these past 2 months. Love isn't supposed to make you question yourself. It isn't supposed to make you feel boring or insufficient or like you're constantly performing to keep someone interested. Real love doesn't throw rings in sinks and look for exits. Real love doesn't need the thrill of something new to feel valuable. Real love shows up, every day, even when it's not exciting, especially when it's not exciting. And Sophie had shown me she wasn't capable of that kind of love. Not with me, maybe not with anyone. Sometimes people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone, and by then, it's too late. Because respect, once lost, can't be rebuilt on apologies alone. Trust, once shattered, can't be glued back together with tears and promises of change. I opened my messages and typed a response. Just one sentence. I hope you find what you're looking for. Then I blocked her number. I put my phone in the center console, started the car, and pulled out of the parking lot. The sun was starting to break through the clouds as I drove. Not dramatically, just gradually. The way things actually happen in real life. Slowly, quietly, without fanfare. I didn't have anywhere to be. The hotel room I'd been staying in had become month to month. My job was flexible. My life was open. Though, for the first time in months, years, maybe, I felt like I could breathe. The weight I'd been carrying was gone. Not the weight of the marriage itself, but the weight of trying to save something that didn't want to be saved. The weight of wondering if I was enough. The weight of performing love for someone who'd already checked out. I drove past our old house. I don't know why. Maybe to see it one more time. Maybe to remind myself what I was walking away from. It looked the same. Red door, white trim, the herb garden Sophie used to tend but had let die months ago. My car used to be in that driveway. My coffee mug on that kitchen counter. My life inside those walls. But it wasn't mine anymore, and strangely, I didn't feel sad about it. I kept driving. A week later, I signed a lease on a one-bedroom apartment in northwest Portland. Hardwood floors, big windows, a view of the city that made me feel like I was part of something instead of separate from it. I bought new furniture. Not expensive stuff, just simple pieces that were mine alone. A couch I picked out without asking anyone's opinion. A bed that had no memories attached to it. Dishes and coffee mugs and towels that belonged only to me. I started going to the gym regularly. Not to avoid Sophie or to run into her, but because I wanted to. Started cooking actual meals instead of eating takeout. Started reading books I'd been meaning to read for years, but never had time for. Started existing as Daniel again. Not Daniel and Sophie, not Sophie's husband, just Daniel. And slowly, day by day, I started to feel like myself again. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I was at a bookstore in Hawthorne when I ran into Jessica, one of the friends who'd staged that ambush dinner. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she wasn't sure if I'd even talk to her. "Daniel, hey, how are you?" "I'm good," I said, and I meant it. "Really?" She seemed surprised. "Really?" She hesitated, then, She's not doing well. She asks about you constantly. Mike and I feel terrible about what happened. We shouldn't have... It's fine." I cut her off gently. "You were trying to help. I get it. She really misses you, you know. She made a huge mistake and she knows it." I nodded slowly. "I'm sure she does." "Do you think... is there any chance you two might..." "No," I said, not unkindly. "There's not." Jessica looked sad. "Can I ask why? I know she hurt you, but people do change. And she's really trying... Because she didn't just hurt me, Jessica. She showed me who she was. And when someone shows you they're willing to throw away something good because they're bored or restless or chasing some fantasy of what else might be out there, you have to believe them." "But if I took her back, what would that tell her? That there are no real consequences? That she can disrespect me, discard me, and I'll still be here waiting whenever she decides I'm good enough again?" Jessica was quiet. "I deserve someone who chooses me," I continued, "not someone who keeps me as a backup plan while they explore their options. And Sophie deserves to figure out what she actually wants instead of running back to safety because being single is harder than she thought. That's very mature of you. It's not maturity. It's self-respect." We talked for a few more minutes, exchanged pleasantries, promised to stay in touch even though we both knew we wouldn't. Then she left, and I continued browsing through books about people and places and stories that had nothing to do with me, and I felt free. If she truly missed being single, I'd given her what she wanted, permanently. And in doing so, I'd given myself something even more valuable, my dignity, my self-respect, and the knowledge that I'm the kind of person who knows when to walk away.